Warhawk, make it loud. And the Romeo Foxtrot, shall we dance?
You are listening to the SitRep podcast, your source for everything related to historical wargaming. Whether you are looking for the latest wargaming news, reviews, painting tutorials, or playthroughs, you will hear about it right here. So grab your favorite beverage or brush and let's hit it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next big episode of the SitRep podcast. And joining me, as always, is our big man in historical knowledge, Mr. Jim Oriskany. Jim, how are you, sir?
Not too bad. Hello, everyone.
And then here in the Midwest, struggling through many facets, and that's all I'm going to say about it, because we're not going to get into the politics of it, is my dear friend Marty. Marty, sir, how are you today?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm well. I'm a little bit tired. It's been a long week for me, but yeah.
Yeah. So here we are gathered together to bring you the latest and greatest in historical wargaming with an emphasis on modern. And we won't talk about the elephant in the room just yet, but we are actually going to scratch a little bit of it today. Because it relates to a topic we talk about quite often. And the reason I'm going to bring it up is not obviously it's hot in the news, but I saw on the Spectre Miniatures website or Facebook page, somebody made a comment about it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I got to warm up my Commodore 64 and pull my show notes off of it. No reaction, guys? No reaction at all?
It's funny because it's true.
It is.
I mean, you may not actually have your notes on it, but you actually do have a Commodore 64.
Oh, yeah. I got a Commodore 64 or 128 and my SX64 all sitting here with an original Commodore monitor or disk drives. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
See, that actually makes me feel better because all of my work I do for SitRep Podcast is done on an 11-year-old Windows 7 machine. I don't, and then someone else on the team has an older computer than I do, so that's actually makes me feel great.
Now, Jim,
how do you keep that thing running, Jim?
I keep it running because I'm very, very careful with it. I'm very, the reason I keep it going is because it's got a full Photoshop suite on it. I don't have the discs for it anymore, and I'm not giving away like $50 or $60 a month,
right?
Because they don't even sell the discs anymore. You have to subscribe to their bullshit.
Yeah. So, that reminds me. I gotta let everybody know that as of September 1st, we'll no longer have Adobe Suite access because I'm not paying I was $30 a month because I was under quote unquote student access because of my degree. But that's ending, and now it's like $50, $60 a month, for full access, and I'm like, I'm not paying that anymore. There are other options out there. Believe it or not, I might actually buy a MacBook because Final Cut Pro is actually really good, and you only pay for it once. And that's what Macs are designed for, is video editing and graphics. So I might get one just exclusively for the podcast, but I haven't decided yet. So anyways, I also, Jim, just to make you feel better, I have a handheld. Do you remember the big craze of handheld PCs? Like Sony had one where you could flip at the screen, had a little keyboard underneath it. And
right. Yep.
And then there was one called an Okio 2. It was like a screen that kind of slid. I have both of those, and they're on Windows XP. And I still use those too.
Nice.
Yeah, I still use. I play Command and Conquer on them. Because
there you go.
Yeah,
not Command and Conquer. Are you part of the Brotherhood of Nod and Commander Kane and all that nonsense?
Of course.
No. That's awesome and sad at the same time. I like it.
Hey, so just goes back. Some of the stuff that's worked back in the day still works great today. To be honest with a lot of people, so it's not like sitting down to a good game of Archon on the Commodore 64. Love Archon. It's if you don't know what that is, it's a battle chess game. So made by EA back in the day. So that and Mule. Do you remember Mule, Jim? Did you ever play Mule?
No.
Oh, okay. So Mule is this sci-fi game where you control these robotic mules. I can't remember what MULE stood for, and it was like space exploration and stuff like this. It was pretty cool. It was a big game back in the day.
I thought you had to get drugs from Colombia to Miami.
That's a different game.
Okay.
Anyway,
that fit in with the modern thing.
Right. All right. So, let's start with just a quick catch up. Marty, I know you've been really busy and probably not much going on in your world. Jim, we're going to let you crank off this one for us, sir, because I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't had much because, as I unfortunately had to post the other night, work has gotten insanely, stupidly busy. I'm spending 17, 18 hours a day at work because COVID has reared its ugly head. And for those who don't know, I manage a unit in a hospital, a critical care unit, and we actually had ICU overflow into our unit. So, yeah. So that's another thing I'm not going to talk about, vaccinations and masking and all that.
There's another political topic
right. We don't want to dive into. So, unfortunately, real world stuff has gotten in the way. I would love to step away and do the podcast and streaming and everything on a full-time basis, but until this channel starts making dinero, I don't see that happening. So, anyhow, what you been up to, Jim?
Not too much. We've had some pretty good gaming streams lately.
Yeah.
We started off with, I'm not sure, I remember we talked about doing it, but I think it was after the last podcast where we actually kicked off in earnest our Red Dragon 2028 campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So Red Dragon 2028 is kind of a cheesy name for our little impromptu, we didn't really plan this, it just kind of happened, and we're rolling with it, and so far it's been great, is our imagination or our sort of our own little techno thriller, setting, half-ass setting, where we're imagining a Chinese invasion of Taiwan in the near future.
Right.
So the whole setup is, we talk about it in the stream, so I won't go over it like 100% here. But the setting, how the Chinese have actually invaded in this, fictional imaginary war. How it happened, what parts of it went well, what their plan was, what facets of their plan succeeded, what facets of their plan failed, what the Western Pacific response has been, of course, from Taiwan, also the United States, South Korea, and even Japan. So there's a lot of politics that we have to work around as far as, could Japan send a lot of troops to help out? They might be able to send a few, probably not a lot because of some constitutional issues they have in their government. Could the United States send a lot of troops? Perhaps not as much as they could because it's on the other side of the Pacific. The Pacific is pretty big. We do have some stuff staged. I think 2nd U.S. Infantry is more or less rotating in and out of, rotating different brigades in and out of South Korea all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, that's not enough. Stop a full scale, like 1 or 2 brigades of 2nd U.S. Infantry to stop an entire, we have 2 Chinese armies in there, group armies, basically reinforced corps. So we're looking at at least 100, 120,000 troops. Could they, slow it down or stop it? How fast could the airlift get real troops in there? Depends on control of the air and the sea, and we're gaming through that as well. We're doing at least 4 different systems in this. Doing Battle Carrier Sabo, Panzer Leader, Air War C-21, and Naval Command. So we're air, ground, and sea. We're doing the whole thing. And we're not trying to make any serious predictions here because, number one, we don't really have enough data to really make a determination. We have no idea if, God forbid, China ever actually did this, how they would do this, and to what strategic level they would commit. And frankly, I don't think they would. At least not in the near future.
Yeah.
But we're just sort of imagining, hey, just in case, it's one of those scenarios that is realistic enough to be, or plausible enough, I should say. It's plausible enough to kind of be interesting and think about, but at the same time, kind of remote enough to where we can run this scenario and not feel like assholes, basically.
Right.
Like we're wishing this to happen. It's kind of in that sweet spot, I feel. The prospects, I think, of an actual Red Chinese full-scale conventional invasion of Taiwan is not too likely. At least not in the foreseeable future. That's the reason for all this Spratly Island nonsense and everything else that they're doing. Is they're trying to achieve some of their maritime and strategic aims without going, full hilt, overlord style into Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, we've done a game of Tactical Combat Middle East. We've taken that 4th edition Panzer Leader. We've adapted it to the Pacific armies that we see. We've done the research. We've seen what is actually the kind of weapons and equipment and TOEs that they have over there, orders of battle as well. And we've put PLA and Navy Marine forces up against a group of Taiwanese defenders. And then as the Americans are landing and the Japanese are with the 42nd Rapid Deployment Brigade, elements thereof, so they were able to send some forces in there. But again, their diet in Tokyo was still arguing the matter. South Korea can't send anything because obviously if China invaded Taiwan, you can bet the situation on the 38th parallel in Korea would be just a little tense.
Yeah, think so?
So, yeah, Republic of Korea is not terribly, it doesn't have a whole lot of leeway when it comes to how much stuff they would like to send.
Right.
And if the performance of their troops in Vietnam, everyone talks about the Australians. If the performance of Republic of Korea forces is any indication in Vietnam, there are at least some Korean units that would love to deploy down here into into Taiwan in this kind of situation, and then watch out.
Yeah,
I think one of the reasons you don't see a lot of Koreans represented in Vietnam war games and movies is sometimes they went a little overboard, to put it lightly. I mean, holy shit, those guys are. If you've ever met some of the people in the Republic of Korea military, especially the Marines, we used to do some little like exchange programs or whatever. Rock Marines are just off the hook, man. Those guys are nuts.
Yeah, we had some Rock Marines in the when I was with the 25th ID in Hawaii on the exchange program, and yeah, Jim, you are not kidding. Yeah. Those dudes. I mean, they make us look sane. Their NCOs their NCOs would run at the back of their formation. If somebody fell out, they literally had like a cane stick, and they just beat their ass until they got back in there. I mean, it was rough, and that's what they did in front of us.
No, yeah, they are. Like I said, there are. At the peak of the deployment, there were like 600,000 Americans in Vietnam, something like that. Australians, New Zealanders. New Zealand had a couple hundred. Australia had a couple thousand. There was like one in 100, 1 in 1,000, something like that. But like, then of course it was South Vietnamese. Some of them were actually okay. Most of them were kind of bad as far as quality of troops go. But there's like, at least at any given time up to, I think it was, I can't remember the number, and someone will just correct me in the comments. So they were like 10 times as many South Koreans in Vietnam at any given time than there were ever, Australians and New Zealanders. And I think it's because a lot of people who like to wargame are in Great Britain, and there were no British units. Britain was not involved in the Vietnam War, even though some people will try and tell you that they were. They were not. And I think Australia is kind of the closest they can get. And, of course, some of these companies, like Battlefront, are actually, I think Battlefront's located in New Zealand.
Yeah.
If memory serves. So there's a little bit of historical bias as far as the scope of the role. We're getting a little off topic here, but
no, go ahead.
I guess what I'm trying to say is,
Jim, do I need your intro for your stories? Do you need your intro?
No, because I'm almost done. At least on this one. The general point is just that the South Koreans, if they ever get into a war, just watch out. They were 10 times, the troop levels were easily 10 to 12 times what we see with troops, with nations like Australia and New Zealand, and yet you never hear about it. I find that suspicious. And then you actually start to if you got help, if you can actually find a source, you actually start reading about what, Republic of Korea Army, Rock Marines were actually doing in Vietnam. It's like, oh, maybe that's why not too many people talk about it. Holy crap, guys! Hey, take it down a notch or three. God damn. Yeah, they got kind of crazy over there. So maybe if this back to our topic, Red Dragon 2028. Maybe if it continues to find support and people still want to try it. We'll get Republic of Korea involved. But so far, we're not, and that's the reason why. We've got Japan in there, we've got Taiwan in there, we've got the United States, and of course we got China.
Yeah.
And it was a long climb at first. A couple of Saturdays ago was like a nice 18-hour day, because I basically had to build 4 armies all at once. As far as that first big Panzer Leader game, that game is now in progress. we had a great stream with Damon, one of our leading community members, Damon, who is don't laugh. He might actually win a Panzer Leader game for once. Good to go, Damon.
Here we go.
He wins lots of games. It's just usually not Panzer Leader, but I think he's going to win this one. I'm almost positive.
Nice.
But we only got halfway through it. We got turns 1 through 5. And I was just going to call. I was just going to, concede and say, you know what? I think you've got this one. And he was like, no, I want to finish this. So we're going to finish. Yeah, we're going to finish that game tomorrow. And then in between that, we also did some Air Force action with those J-20 Chengdus, the Chengdu J-20 Greater Dragons, some Chinese built under license flankers, formerly of the Soviet and later Russian Air Force. Against our F-35 and F-22s. F-35s from the Navy, F-22 Raptors from the Air Force. And we had a nice little dogfight. Actually, a big dogfight. We had 10 aircraft in the sky all at once. I think I kind of went overboard on that one. Yeah, because I couldn't make up my mind between F-35s and F-22s. So I decided to have both of them. Fighters always fly in pairs. That makes the American minimum 4 aircraft.
Yeah.
Because, again, I want to have both. I should have just shut up, sat down, and picked one, but nope, I had to have both. And once you have 4 American aircraft, you have to have at least 6 Chinese aircraft, if not 8.
Yeah.
So the game got out of hand as far as the scope went pretty quickly. But we had a great stream, a great result. And actually learned a little bit about how these aircraft actually operate, the strengths and weaknesses of these 4 different types, and the missiles and so on and so forth. Air War C-21 is great at that. It's one of those. It really does a good job at not only teaching you which aircraft would probably win in a given dogfight under certain circumstances, but why. And it doesn't beat you over the head with special rules like some other games I won't mention. But as you actually play through it a couple of times, we saw this in our Falklands game, Bill, is pretty soon you realize, because I can't do that. Well, no wonder the British won all those dogfights in '82, or no wonder the Argentinians could, had this problem, and because it happens organically in the game. Yeah, and you kind of learn it for yourself. So yeah, it's to wrap up. It's as far as what I've been doing with hobby. It's been a lot of World War III in the Western Pacific, because we've all done Team Yankee to death by this point. Also, 1980s, that shit isn't going to happen again. The closest we're going to get to Team Yankee nowadays is some nonsense in the Ukraine, and we've done that as well, at least twice. So yeah, we're just looking to try out different things and make sure that our community doesn't get bored. So that's pretty much the thought behind Red Dragon 2028.
Nice, excellent, nice work. Marty, have you done any hobby this week?
Yeah. So I did do a little. Okay. Didn't get a ton of stuff done, but I finished my walkers from dust. The walkers themselves were done. I had to finish the pilots, so I painted them. So I got 3 of those guys all done. I'm pretty happy with them. I then went back and started working on the guys that we started on the live stream. So, because I had just gotten some basic base coat down, and TBH, if I don't have a really bright light and probably wearing my magnification, geek glasses, I can't see shit.
Damn, you're old.
Yeah, it's rough. So I'm like, wow, I missed a lot on those guys. So I cleaned them up, and I've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those dudes. So I think it's the LMG squad and then the IED emplacers that I was working on last Wednesday that are now pretty much base coated.
Gotcha.
So, and then I also have been slowly working on a Desert Scorpions Jeep for dust. So
gotcha.
Got him all base coated, and now I'm starting to do the piece parts and whatnot. So coming along slowly but surely. Oh, I also so I have a Spectre Miniatures, one of their limited edition covert boxes from a year and a half ago. And I was cleaning up, and I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe I never got these guys out. So I primed all them and kind of working inside out. I have their skin tones all all put on. So those are some really cool looking figures. So
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I gotta get those on the table somewhere. What the hell? So yeah, that's
bright lights and magnifying glasses. Is anything more depressing, guys? Maybe you can relate. You paint up a miniature, you think it looks pretty good, you look over, you're like, hey, that doesn't look too bad. In fact, I'm so proud of that, I'm going to take a photo of it and put it up on a site somewhere.
Oh,
yeah. Take that picture in like a 5 meg camera, and then it goes up on like a 30-inch monitor, and you're like, oh my God, I must be blind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can wholeheartedly relate to that experience.
That's not fun. And then you're writing in the comments, you're like, this looks much better in person, trust me. Yeah. Or God forbid you're going into Photoshop and you're like cheat fixing it in Photoshop. You're like, no, that didn't happen. Nobody saw that.
I'm like, hey, dude, I'm not a competition painter. These are my little toys I push around the table. like them or don't.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Like, I'll be painting something, and I'm like, yeah, this is really good. And I lay it down. Then I go to photograph it. I'm like, crap, I totally missed the underside of his arm. How did I do that? And so, pictures do not lie, and pictures will show your mistakes bright and glaringly for everybody to see. So,
although
those high-def cameras are a cruel mistress sometimes.
Yeah.
But it can be a good way to critique your own work kind of thing, before you put it on the interwebs. Just take the picture and look at it.
It's true.
It is. I mean, I really do that nowadays. If I'm really working on something that, I want, like, Marty, have you seen the thing? Is it Dragonfall is going to come? They got their painting competition. I'm seriously thinking about entering it this year. I got to find the right model, though.
Who's this?
Dragonfall. They have it, it's every fall. It's a convention. I think they're having it in Lake Geneva this year, of all places.
Yeah. I think the HMS, believe it or not, the HMGS Midwest guys, I think actually mentioned, or maybe it was just Kevin Cabai.
Yeah. Because
I think he does some of the geekery there as well as historical.
Yeah. So, anyway, so, using a camera can help in stages, like you prime or you do your base, then you can use a camera to really look to see, did I get the right coverage? Did I get, so you can use it as a tool, if you really want to. So that's awesome. So cool. For me, honestly, this week, there has been no time for hobby. It's literally get up at 5 a.m, go to work, get home about 7, 8 o'clock, eat and sit for an hour, and then go to bed. And then do it again the next day. So the other day I worked till 1 a.m. and, so it's been crazy. All right. So let's get out of the depressing shit and let's move on to some cool stuff. Marty, what do you got for news? I know your news is going to be a little light this week, understandably, but hit it.
It is. However, I do have some really good stuff. So to continue with the theme of depressing, for those of you who know who Joe Galloway is, the famed war correspondent, Joe passed away this week at age 79.
Yep.
So our hats off to him. Anyone that's seen the movie We Were Soldiers, you'll recall the Galloway character in there. But that wasn't his only gig. He had a long and storied career. From all reports, he was an awesome guy. So our hats off to Mr. Galloway and our condolences to his friends and family. All right, moving on. Rubicon Models is putting together a Vietnam game. They've got their alpha rules together. Chris Long turned me on to that, and I started looking at that a little bit, and man, that's a rabbit hole you can go down. So so now I'm in the special Facebook group for the rule set because they're in development. There's not a hard timeline on anything, but they do have a video out where they talk about the big concepts and some of the mechanics and whatnot, and they're going to further flesh that out in development as they go into beta testing and then into eventual legit play testing. So excited to see what comes out there, and they have some awesome models to go along with that stuff. So if Vietnam's your jam, check out Rubicon Models.
Yes, most definitely.
And then finally,
actually, we're gonna have We're going to set up an interview with him to talk about that. Chris has been reaching out to him, and I believe he's interested in coming on and talking about it, and then talking about the alpha play and all that. So look for that soon.
That'll be exciting. And then my final piece is probably my favorite piece, Adepticon 2022. Yeah. So finally, we're going to have our Adepticon back. I'm pretty excited about that. They announced the venues, so they're going to be over at the Schaumburg Renaissance Convention Center, where they have been, but they have a offsite location at the Hyatt Regency Schaumburg, it's right down the road. It's like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. It's super close by. So they're going to it'll be a split venue. So they're going to set up Adepticon Core over at the Schaumburg Renaissance Center, and then they're calling the Hyatt Regency the Outer Rim. And it looks like the historical stuff will probably be over at the Hyatt Regency from the comments that I see on the Adepticon page.
Right. So,
but they've released information on being able to get your rooms reserved starting on the 24th of this month, I believe. ? Yeah. But yeah.
Yep.
Tuesday the 24th. There we go. Rooms are $130, $135 a night, depending on which hotel you're staying at.
And you can find cheaper rooms further away from the convention center. Those are just the convention block rooms.
Yeah, if you want to be there on site, that's where you go. But there are a bunch of other places that are within 10 or 15 minutes as well.
Yeah.
So if you live in South Florida, those are cheap hotel rooms.
True.
I mean, really, that's not a bad rate for around here.
No, it's not.
No.
I mean, that's a pretty good rate.
Yeah. Especially
at a convention. So that's coming. Pretty excited. They haven't put together their lineup yet. They haven't published any of that stuff. But I know that there are many folks who are super excited to see that convention come back. I being one. So
yeah, it'll be
look forward to being able to share more news as it becomes available. They have not opened up registration itself yet. They did comment that they expected prices to remain on par with what it's been in the past.
Yeah.
So I think that was $30 or $40 for your regular registration, plus then whatever events or classes or whatever you wanted to go to, and then they have a higher tier, like VIP ones and all that jazz as well, where you get like the super swag bag and that jazz.
So, I mean, you can actually attend for free, but you can't really participate in anything. It's basically you can come in and look around. You can't shop. You can't participate in any games. So if you want to be an active participant, you have to purchase a badge. So just to let you know as well. So
yeah, and like I said, I don't remember what the price on the badges was, but it's not terribly expensive. No. I mean, it's like $30, $40 for the weekend for just a regular badge. And that'll get you into the vendor hall and get you shopping and whatnot. And if there's other events that you want to go to. I will tell you, based on my own experience, if there are things that you want to go to, as soon as they publish their events, jump on it, because that stuff fills up fast.
Yeah, it's like any big game convention, like Gen Con. As soon as the event list posts for sign up, it's usually sold out within minutes. So
so if you've got your heart set on learning how to paint or model from a particular person, and they're running a workshop there, sign up for that ASAP.
Yep. So my goal is for 2023. I know this is we're talking 22, but I would like to run a seminar and a workshop at Adepticon. So we shall see. Cool. I do have some news as well, Marty.
Okay,
it was
please.
announced yesterday for everybody out there who's been in miniature gaming, modeling for a while, you probably have heard of Secret Weapon Miniatures. They have a line of paints and terrain and resin terrain. They had some really cool stuff. Unfortunately, they announced yesterday, after 12 years of being in business, they are shutting their doors. So their website is currently down. It'll come back up around the 23rd for a clearance sale. Once everything's gone, it's gone, and they're leaving the business, which is sad because they've always been a big participant in Adepticon. And they have really good paints and terrain pieces and bases and all kinds of stuff. So very sad to hear another one, is going down partially due to COVID. So, yeah. Another bit of news, I am trying to reach out to the person I received the entire, the general collection from. That's the old Avalon Hill magazine. So to get permission or work out a deal where we can make accessible on our new website coming every issue of the Avalon Hill, the General. That was the, I believe, was it monthly, Jim? Monthly publication where they talked about all different kinds of games and scenarios, and they have like advanced squad leader scenarios in there and other things. So I'm hoping to have a section on the website where you'll have full access to every issue of Avalon Hills, the General. On our website.
I think it was either monthly or quarterly. I could actually look that up, but yeah.
I have a copy right here. I was looking at the very last issue. Let me see if I can get to the cover page. I'll tell you what it says. Come on.
I honestly don't remember. I'm not contesting you.
Yeah, no. You're right. I'm just. It says volume 32, number 3. Doesn't say. I'm gonna go with it's probably quarterly. At least at the end, it was. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, don't know. Let's see. Our subscription, 2 years, bi-monthly. Publication is bi-monthly with mailings made close to beginning of January, March, May, July, September, November. Bi-monthly.
Yep.
So
there you go. Turns out it's neither monthly nor quarterly.
Monthly sounded a little frequent. I was like, maybe it was. I can't remember, but bi-monthly. Yeah, that sounds right.
So, for anybody who has a love for classic wargaming at its finest.
Yeah, the golden age of wargaming, yes. That was a long, long time ago.
So, all you people who are getting your torches and pickaxes ready to come storm my house because I said it, the finest era of wargaming. We will
on that hill. You and I stand shoulder to shoulder.
We will die on that hill, my friend. Yes. We will die on that hill. Because
would that be Avalon Hill?
Marty is
awarded it up.
Joke of the day.
I was waiting for one of you guys to say it. I thought you set it up for purpose.
So anyway, if you
now, in all fairness to modern to today's war games, there are a few companies, GMT, Decision Games. There are a few companies that keep the torch going.
Yeah.
The components are definitely a lot better. I bought a modern hex and counter game. I picked up the stupid the punch sheet, and the counters fell out of the punch sheet without me barely looking at them. Perfectly smooth on the first try. You've probably done this, Bill, where you sit down with a pair of nail clippers on those old Avalon Hill games from 1972 or whatever, and you have to spend 3 hours clipping the corners.
I do not clip. I am not a clipper. I refuse to clip.
No, I am a hard. See, now all of a sudden we disagree. I'm a hardcore clipper.
No,
my old school Panzerleader counters are beautiful, and they don't hang up. You can put them all in the hex. You can stack them. You can overrun. You can cat attack, and you never have the friggin' counters hooking into each other and dragging each other around the table. Yeah, nope.
The only thing I will admit to is if I see that, I hate to use the word hanging Chad, but that little dimple for, I will smooth that out, trim it off. I will not clip corners. You know how you can buy those clippers, that thing you put your counter in, you can clip them. It looks like specially designed clippers. People, Some of the
I
people,
literally just use a pair of nail clippers.
Well, they do that, but they now have these things where you can put your piece in there. It aligns it perfectly. You snap it. It makes this perfect cut and blah, 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 blah. And people spend hours doing this. And I'm like, are you freaking serious?
I've seen people overdo it where your counters are basically octagons by the time they're done. They look like stop signs. I'm like, no, you clip too much off the corners. But just a little tiny bit so that hanging chat is not an issue.
I have actually seen somebody go out of their way to make their counters hexagons. So, the facing, I don't know if it was facing based, they decided to do this. So, they would go into a hex and they were hexagon shaped. I don't know how they.
That's interesting.
And I'm like, come on. I understand why people do it, especially the older stuff, because the paper will start to separate if you don't, But I don't know. To me, I really try and keep them as close to original as possible. But, to be honest with you, I don't play with my classic games as much as you do probably, so I can understand doing it. I don't know. To me, it seems blasphemy or something. I don't know. And
well, I just do it because
you're a purist.
I am a purist.
The counters are they want, especially in tactical games, not so much operational games, where the whole thing is basically a unit symbol and 3 numbers.
Yeah.
But in tactical games, there's usually a picture of the miniature, and that's anything from Alexander the Great through Napoleonics to today, because this thing goes across all periods. And so, like Napoleonics, they have like the actual figure of the guy and the colors, and it's got to be the right colors on the regiment. We all know about Napoleonics.
Yeah.
Classical history, Greeks, Romans, medievals, they want to put as much art as they can on the counter, especially with more modern printing techniques. Not so much, the old Panzerleiter days when you've got a little black silhouette. That was all you got.
Uh-huh.
But on top of that, so that it takes up real estate on the counter. There's a 5/8 of an inch counter. There's not a lot of space. It's less than a square inch. You got to put a bunch of numbers on there: a weapons class, a unit type, a serial number back in those days.
Yeah.
And man, if it's basically the counter's got to be as big as it can so that it can fit all that information on there as best they can. Meanwhile, they're sending out this hex board, and the hex board has to have the hexes. You have to have as many hexes as possible in order to get the best movement and the best ranges and the best scales and all that stuff like that. But they're limited in the size of the hex kit they can send you because it's a physical set that has to fit in the box. It's usually an 8x10 box. So the counters, long story short, too late, are barely fitting in the counter. Yeah. And if you've got those hanging chads on there, especially if it's a high density game like Panzerleiter, where you can have like 7 counters in a hex between. Okay, the stacking limit is 4. One of them is carrying a passenger unit. Some of them are spotted. One of them took opportunity fire. One of them's disrupted. One of them's disabled. One of them's... Before you know it, you've got like a little poker stack in that hex.
Yeah.
And then they get overrun by another poker stack. And then this other guy comes in. And on an important part of a Panzerleiter board, you can have like 20 counters in like 4 or 5 hexes. And then to try to maneuver, and oh God, what was the 5th counter down there? I used to get old mechanical pencils and put some kneaded eraser on the tip so I could like literally like blue tack my way through a stack, like put my blue tack on the counter and like literally lift it up without having to get my fingers in there. Yeah. So when I play digitally, you'll see that my counters are kind of small and my hexes are kind of big. I'm a fan of nice big hexes and not quite so big counters, so you have that finger room in your. And that was just part of it. Was just clipping off the corners of those counters.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, obviously there's a valid reason for. To me, it just I don't know. To each their own. But what I feel the greatest achievement of having these games is that we're preserving gaming history, gaming legend, whatever. A company that back in its day, it was the GW of wargaming back in the day. 50s,
60s, and 70s.
Yeah,
Avalon Hill, and I won't even say like its sister companies because really there weren't. I mean, they got some in the 70s and 80s. SSI, SPI,
3M.
Matrix,
Remember 3M games?
Yep. But back then it was really just It was really just Avalon Hill and maybe 1 or 2 others. I know they didn't invent wargaming, so everyone just relax. But they kind of invented the idea of tactical wargaming for the average person.
Yeah.
You could go into a bookstore, I'm looking at the box right now on my shelf. You can pick up a box of Panzerblitz for like $10 in those days and take it home, and you are good to go for, I mean, technically a lifetime, but really several years of wargaming, and you would never run out of stuff to do. Tactics in 1954 was like, I guess you could almost call it like the world's first modern war game.
Mm-hmm.
Diplomacy, destroying friendships since 1959. Overlord, Battle of the Bulge, 1962. These games, these games were really, the center of the market back in those days, and they kind of got it started. And then from there, you would eventually have, it became acceptable and widespread enough where from that garden, if you want to call it, from that soil, you would spring new things like Dragon Quest, which is where Gary Gygax stole D&D from. I said it. I don't care. I regret nothing. He bought that company, took it apart because he didn't want to compete with it anymore. So there's TSR, there's Dungeons and Dragons, and literally everything flows from there. And eventually GW popped up. I think GW got started in the 70s.
Yeah, I think late 70s. I think it was.
Yeah, 70s, and they started off with not even Warhammer. They started off with I think some Lord of the Rings stuff,
something like that.
And
then, some fantasy stuff.
Yeah, and then I think 40K kind of got, or Warhammer 40K, whatever you want to call it, sort of got started in like 84.
Yeah,
or something like that. Yeah, it was like the same time BattleTech was getting going, 1984, almost the exact same year.
So yeah.
I mean, the Tactics was kicking ass in 1954 with Tactics, and technically that was the sequel. So I don't even know when the first Tactics came out. But Tactics 2 came out in 1954. You buy a box, you set up a war game. It wasn't chess. It wasn't abstract. It was a war game, complete with weather, nuclear weapons, supply, specialized troops for mountains, airborne, marine. And yet it was simple enough to where the average person could get it because there were no experienced war gamers. I mean, there were always war gamers. There were guys painting Napoleonics in their basement since God, and Christ was a corporal, that whole thing. But they weren't like out in the open. They weren't out in the daylight. It was like, oh, I know this weird guy that lives on the end of the street. He paints his little toy soldiers. Back then they made them out of lead and God knows what.
I think that was Bill's dad.
Yeah, pretty much. That was my dad. My dad and my uncle.
Yeah, but your dad and uncle got into all these Avalon Hill games too. Oh
yeah, I mean, I know I found at my grandpa's house when he's moving back to Tennessee from Chicago, up in the attic, I remember finding a couple boxes of like some, for lack of a better word, toy soldiers that my dad had as a kid that they played. My uncle lived down the street. They all lived on the same block. This is back in the day when everybody lived on the same block. And, they would get together and war game even when they were kids. And then when I was a kid, I remember they would have a Saturday where we'd go to my uncle's house or he would come to our house, and they would spend all morning setting up Panzer Blitz or Panzer Leader or whatever Avalon Hill game, based on whatever scenario they were playing. It would take them a couple hours to sort the pieces and, get them all set up, and then they would start playing. So, I mean, to me, it wasn't just the gameplay. It was the whole event, the whole thing as far as, this is what we're going to play today. This is, it was that whole thing. It was just a very social thing. My dad and uncle would always jaw back and forth. And then, I would, I was 7, 8, 9, and they would let me roll the dice once in a while or, help move some pieces. But I tell you what, man, when things got serious, the kids don't talk. They're in the heat of the battle. You just sit there and watch. So, yeah, good memories. And you know what? For somebody who's never played a Hex Encounter game, I think you're missing out on a really great experience, especially if it's a well-done game. I did not know as a kid and even as a young adult that a lot of those, I think, a lot of the Avalon Hill games, especially the bigger games, Blitz and Leader, as you were saying, the serial numbers on the chip, I did not know those were serial numbers to identify each unit individually. That was important for play-by-mail games. Yeah. So back
in that dark era.
Yeah. So that's how in depth those games got, because I remember my dad and uncle, they would, build their, what was it, battalions, brigades, whatever the level is, and they would write down all their serial numbers. So, those guys, okay, this is this, and they got pretty crazy about it. So it was pretty cool. So, yeah, if you guys have not played them, I'm not saying go out and buy yourselves a copy of Panzer Blitz or Panzer Leader. You should. Every competent wargamer should own at least one copy of one of those games. Or, to Jim's opinion, probably Arab-Israeli Wars. Because it's a more refined version, but
the rules are better. The only issue with those old games is, again, these games came out in the 70s with publishing and printing technology of the 70s. I open up an old box of my actual box of complete with little baggies of counters from the 1970s, like Arab-Israeli War games or the Panzer Leader games, and I'm like, oh, I mean, the nostalgia is still there. But those counters really are garbage. I mean, they're so bad.
Compared to
literally
today's,
like a little, yeah. I mean, physical counters or whatever. But that's why we do what we do on our Sundays. That's why we do what we do tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be playing Panzer Leader, albeit 4th edition. So it's more of a game that grew out of Panzer Leader, but we're playing with counters that I designed 2 weeks ago. Nice, big, rich, colorful counters. The best thing that, Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator in 2021 can do. But we're still using those old rules because, God damn it, they don't write rules like that anymore. There's stuff they pump out nowadays, and it's not even really the gaming company's fault. So when I say this, I'm not shitting on modern game companies. Modern game companies have to make money, and the average attention span of your average gamer is like 1/5 what it used to be because of Twitter, social media, YouTube, Netflix, and they have to be able to sell those games.
Yeah.
As much as we like to talk about these old games, and God knows we do, if you actually tried to build one of these games and take it to market, you would fall on your face, faster than it wouldn't. You wouldn't make any money because no one would buy it. So it's kind of sad, but that's the reason why a lot of companies aren't making games like this anymore. So I do get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those games back then had rules that made sense. They had rule books. I mean, we were talking about Rubicon getting started with their Vietnam set. Okay, no worries. So we played Valor and Victory all the time, me and my friends here locally. And then I was like, you know what? This would be really cool if we did this in Vietnam. Oh, yeah, we can just put M60s in the game and boom, we got it. No, because making a Vietnam game out of a World War II game is a little more complicated than adding M60s. And this kind of goes back to what we saw with some of the bolt action stuff. They were going to, they're making a Vietnam game. And there's a lot more to it. And then there's more to it. And then there's more to it. And then there's more to it. And eventually, that's where Valor and Victory Modern Edition came from, or Modern Expansion came from. Just trying to make a system big enough to where it would fit all the changes you really have to do Vietnam correctly.
Right.
And then I wrote the rule book for it. And then people were like, oh my God, this rule book's amazing. I'm like, this rule book is almost copy pasted, at least the format is, copy pasted from Barry Doyle's original, 2007 Valor and Victory. Because Barry Doyle gets it. He basically copy pasted his format from Advanced Squad Leader. As far as how the book is written out, how it's, okay, this is rule number 10, here's rule 10.1, here's rules 10.2, here's rule 10.3. There's a footnote to rule 10.3 called 10.3.1, 10.3.12, 2.
Yeah.
And it's written like a legal document. Darkstar is written like that. And people are like, oh my God, how did you write this rule book? I'm like, no, this is the way you write a rule book. A rule book is not 8 pages of mostly pictures and fluff that, you send out for free and, here you go, just buy our miniatures. Most rule books nowadays are pretty much commercials for miniatures.
Yes. Buy
our miniatures, because that's where they make their money. And I get it, but at the same time, the rules today are trash. I mean, mostly. I'm talking about, a lot of people. There are some great books out there. Battle group books are amazing. Mm-hmm. Their rule books they're a little expensive, but they're worth it. Battle group rule books are amazing. So there are exceptions. I'm not painting with too broad a brush, I hope. But yeah, some of the rule books today are just like, first of all, they're not books, they're like booklets. Like here you go. You're lucky if you get a side saddle stitch, with like 4 or 5 pages of rules and then some nice pictures and some fluff. I don't want your fluff. I want rules. that makes sense.
Right.
Because, I mean, maybe you guys agree with me, maybe not. I don't want to ramble too long. But the simpler the rule set is, we want our rules to be simple and accessible. Well, guess what, Einstein? The simpler your rules are, the more complicated your games are going to be, because you don't take time to spell out what's actually going on. And you have a nice 3 or 4 page rule book. I won't mention games that have done this, but there was one rule book that went down to, what was it, 2 pages?
2 pages.
Everyone probably knows what
yeah.
I'm talking about. Yeah. How many arguments, how many fistfights, how many thrown miniatures around the convention floor? Because there are no rules. It's pretty much just, hey, have fun, buy our miniatures.
Yeah.
And that sounds great in theory. It's all just to have fun and have a relaxing day with friends. No, until you actually start chucking dice. And then you realize that you or the game designers have no idea what the hell's going on. And the game breaks down into an argument or a 3-up, 4-up shouting match or whatever. You know what? Yeah, give me a damn rule book. The physical counters, the physical components, God knows the miniatures are a lot better than they used to be. The paints are better, the hobby's better. So I think I understand what people are talking about when they say, the games are better now than they ever have been.
Right.
But the rules, no, not the rules. What we need to do is marry up modern components with old school rules. I think we'll be, in a good place, which is kind of what we try and do on the weekends, on our weekend games.
Mm-hmm.
New components, internet gaming. I game with people on 3 different continents every week, and old school rules with new tools, new components, new game boards, new counters, and it works great.
Yeah. Yeah. The nice thing about those kind of games is storage is not a typical issue, because you got the whole game, pieces, everything, maps, all in a box, right? So if you have one shelf somewhere, you can dedicate to several games. Now, granted, does it really allay the hobby like miniatures do? Probably not. But there are people who their entire hobby is designing game pieces, and I've seen it. There's a couple Facebook groups where, it's dedicated to hex and counter games, and people will redesign, or custom design pieces for certain games.
Come to my house any given Saturday. You'll see what I'm doing for 8 hours.
Right. And then there's people, you can't do that. That's a copyright infringement. I don't know. I mean, does Avalon Hill / Hasbro / Wizards of the Coast really care at this point, for some of these old games that they're not even publishing anymore, or even have any aspiration to publish, that don't sell? Who knows?
Technically, Multiman Publishing owns the rule set, and there are other companies that publish their own rule sets and charge money.
Yeah,
and they still do it. So I don't think.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a hobby within its own hobby. So whether it's miniatures based, hex and counter based, whatever, as long as it gets you playing a game and you enjoy it and you can spend time with people or solo if you need to, so much the better, right? So.
Yeah, and just a quick clarification in case anyone gets the wrong idea. When we say old games, we mean old games. We're not talking about hex and counter games are better than miniature games.
Right.
I'm saying old rule sets are better than newer rule sets, and I'm including miniatures in that. Old school GHQ micro armor, 6mm, they need to update their orders of battle. There's actually a conversation going on in our Discord about that. As far as, these old ass busted, they kind of stopped producing TOEs for armies in like Iraqi Freedom 2003.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most modern one they have on there. Well, just come out with some new ones so that we can do things like Red Dragon in GHQ micro armor 6mm. So it's not like we're just saying, hex and counter games are great back in the day and modern miniature games are terrible. We're saying that modern games just don't usually have the best rules. And even then, I'm putting a huge usually on there, because there are games like Valor and Victory, Battle Group. There are some great games out there. There are games I haven't tried, Skirmish Sanguine, and so on and so forth, that are great, especially skirmish stuff. I'm just talking about the rule books, the rule sets. Back in the day, used to be. I think people put more effort into rule books in the old days. Because even books I read today, there's like typos in them and like blatant errors. I was doing Air War C-21 last week with Bernard, and I'm sorry, an F-35 carries one Sidewinder missile? How is that even possible? It has two. Okay, if you want to say it carries two, first of all, that's not correct. But at one, it literally carries one on each wing or one in each weapons bay. How the hell do you carry one of anything in a jet,
right.
except a gun?
Yeah.
It's just blatant errors. Like bad.
Hey, so I just had a thought thinking about the old school rule sets versus modern ones, and I think maybe part of the reason why the rules were written with more detail and whatnot back then is they didn't have a YouTube tutorial that you could go to either. So the only reference you had was the rule book itself and maybe your buddy that's already played it before, versus now you can go to all these places and social media and whatnot, and you can see a playthrough. You can see the game designer explain what their intent was, things like that, where you didn't have that back then.
Yeah, the best you had back then was an issue of, this is what we call a callback in the biz, issue of Avalon Hill's General Magazine.
Yep.
They might have if you were lucky, they'd have an article about it like 6 months later. Otherwise, yeah, you were out of gas. You had to figure it out for yourself.
Well, yeah. The good old days. Well, you know what, though, Jim? I think you're bringing the good old days to today's days. So, God
bless the internet.
That's right.
Right.
You've exposed a whole new generation to that kind of gaming that probably
we've got a few converts. We got some people who were only doing miniature game, and they're like, okay, not a risky guy. I'll give it a shot. And now it's like, when are we playing again? Valor and Victory, Panzer Leader. Not many, but some. Yep. We're gonna bring it back eventually.
Yeah, we're doing it. And there's some companies out there that are worth mentioning that still do a pretty good job of, bringing Hex Encounter / Chit.
Oh God! Yeah,
Worthington Publishing. I support Worthington Publishing like crazy. Pretty much any time they have a Kickstarter, if it's anything I'm interested in, I pretty much back it. I've backed their the Custer's Last Stand.
GMT is awesome.
Yeah, GMT. Was it Decision Games? Which one publishes the big Pacific one? The one I'm trying to get my hands on.
That's Decision Games. Yeah.
So
stop now.
No, I will play that game.
I'm not saying anything bad about Decision Games. That one game is madness. It is huge. But hey, go for it.
I feel a challenge. I have to get my hands on that game. If anything. So, all right. So, yeah. So, I wanted to, again, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, I don't want to delve too deep into the politics and everything that's going on this week, and Marty's very close to this. The reason I'm bringing it up is because on the Spectre Miniatures Facebook page, somebody put, hey, have you guys already started playing scenarios based upon the events in Afghanistan, like, rescuing VIPs or, taking out head honchos or whatever? And
and I think that got kicked off with, there was a dude that just posted a photo of like a Black Hawk extracting a team or something like that. Yeah.
So, we are a big proponent on this podcast of, I don't think anything outside of very rare circumstances is taboo. At this one though, I don't know if we don't let this one settle a little bit before we start playing it. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying, should we let things pan out because it's so live? Or do you say go for it? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, so as somebody that's deployed to Afghanistan twice, I'm currently trying to assist my interpreter get his family out of Kabul, which is why I've been super busy this week.
Uh-huh.
That's something that is near and dear to my heart. I say game it. I don't have any problem with that. If somebody is putting, some weird, stupid spin on it, then you're just an asshole and don't do that.
Right.
But as it turns out, history is history.
Right.
It happened.
Exactly.
So if that's something, I don't see a difference other than the time frame between gaming something along those lines and what we did with 13 days to 13 hours.
True.
We used a historical situation. We changed one variable, and that was just the time that the guys launched.
Yep.
And then we went with our rule set to play it out to see if history would have been different. Right. I don't have any beef with something like that going on. I think that's total fair game. On the other hand, I can also tell you, this is it's an issue that affects a lot of people, particularly veterans that served there, in some very dark ways. There's a lot of strong dudes that I know that I've been on the phone with this week as well, that are devastated by what has happened and what the events that have occurred.
Yeah.
So one kind of be sensitive to that. Understand that there's some folks coming at it from that angle, but in general, have at it. We've had this conversation before. I think it's kind of a know your audience here.
Sure.
As far as who you're talking to or looking to play out that kind of scenario.
Yep.
Personally, I don't mean to sound insensitive, but personally, I think this means I need more Taliban guys.
We got a lot of Taliban guys, don't we?
I do, but
I actually have quite a few that Gaz sent me from Courage and Contact from White Dragon Miniatures. I got guys with motorcycles and all that crap.
Those are some nice figures too.
I got several boxes that we need to paint up, so we should do that on a Wednesday night or another Saturday Night Live. And thank you to everybody who joined us for Saturday Night Live.
That was good times.
Yeah, it was really good times, and appreciate Don being with us. We had a good time.
Don is now a super fan of contrast paint.
Yes. So yes, little did we know.
I should have brought more figures.
So awesome. All right, so we're gonna leave that as know your audience and be respectful, and we'll leave.
I
think so.
And be respectful, and then Bill said it best. We've always sort of had this posture, this policy, whatever you want to call it, on the Sit Rep podcast, where it's like, we do modern miniatures, and the war could be happening right now. That's going to make some people uncomfortable. Understood, but we're going to keep doing it. So, at the same time, I've been on some other Discords and some other communities, and some, I guess they thought it was funny. Comments have been kind of dropped, and you know what? I didn't even deploy over there. Afghanistan was way after my time, and I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm like, dude, don't be it's surprising, at least to me, that it affects me at all. But at the same time, now is not, at least just speaking only for myself, now is not the time to, I guess, be a hypocrite.
Right.
We talked about the Irish troubles. We talked about Ukraine. We talked about all these wars that affect other people. We're like, go for it, man. We talked about Colombia. I've got lots of friends. I live in South Florida. I've got lots of friends and coworkers that the reason they're here is their families fled La Violencia back in the 80s, back in the 90s. And that's the reason that they're here working at the company that I work at now, or their kids are. And and then we game drug battles, in sit rep skirmish or whatever. So it's the wrong time to suddenly say, well, now that we've come across a conflict that actually pisses me off, suddenly it's now not cool to, to run it or whatever. The only thing I would say, if you're going to game what's going on in Afghanistan right now, this is the reason. Number one, that's the reason I wouldn't do it personally. But the other reason I wouldn't do it personally has nothing to do with whether or not it's too soon or it's too sensitive or it's too whatever. Is you don't know what the hell's going on over there. There is no way any of the stuff that's coming out of there is accurate or complete. That's the other pitfall. The one that's the somewhat smaller pitfall when it comes to modern wargaming that almost no one talks about is, the big pitfall is it's too sensitive, it's too soon. Some people are going to react negatively to this. That's what everyone always talks about. What many people don't talk about is you don't have a goddamn clue what's really happening over there. And if you think you do, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Because what's coming out of either Fox or CNN, I don't care what outlet you watch, there's no way it's complete. There's no way it's unbiased. There's no way this stuff is unclassified. As far as letting it settle, the only reason I would ever let a modern conflict settle is wait for some books to be written, wait for some cool, unbiased, detached viewpoints to be put out there by people who really do this for a living, and your games are going to be a little bit better from that standpoint. But other than that, it's not something I would do personally, but I'm not going to bat an eye at anybody who does.
Well, and to your point about the information, Jim. So I've been talking to a lot of folks that are there, and it's kind of third party. Got a guy that's on the ground, and depending on where that dude is, and we're talking about like just at the airport or Camp Sullivan, which is right across from the airport. That's 3 different perspectives, and they have 3 wholly different stories to tell on what's going on the ground, because they're working on their slice of the pie, and that's what they see. And then information comes out in dribs and drabs, and it's very difficult to put the big picture together, as well as like if I had the big picture, I couldn't talk about it because I don't want to share that, because it's legit, real info, real time right now. And
real info, real time. That's probably classified on
the ground.
Yeah, number one, it's probably classified. You'd be violating laws by even talking about it. Number 2, you'd be putting people's lives in danger. And I've gotten in trouble for saying this on the podcast before, but I'll stand by it. When it comes to World War II, World War I, I don't care how far back you go. If you want to really know what's going on in a battle or in a given situation, the last person you want to talk to is somebody who was there. There's no way that person's going to have the whole picture. There's no way that person is going to be emotionally detached and give you a nice. If you want to ask what it was like, he's the only person you can go to, because Mr. Oxford historian sitting back there in his overstuffed armchair smoking his pipe, he's not going to have a clue what it was like to jump out of that Higgins boat on Omaha Beach or anything like that. But that's where you're going to get your overview as far as what happened. What it was like, you have to go to somebody else for that. Yeah,
and in this case, having your academic, your person that studied this extensively and has gathered a large pool of data to make their decisions and their findings, and to put this in the concept of a game, to design a game. You want that big overarching view, but if you want a good narrative flavor, then you start plucking those individual stories out and be like, dude, there I was crossing the channel, the fucking ramp went down and it was on.
It's there's 2 quite basic questions: what was actually happening, and to a bigger point, why it was happening. You need a broader context for that, and then what it was like. And you got to go to 2 different people for that, because those are 2 very, very different questions.
To be honest with what's going on right now, I think that there's actually some opportunity for some great, particularly smaller scenario-based gaming situations.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of go off of what events are, but you can also use your imagination a little bit, and you could set up a rescue mission. You could set up, that you're, some high level HVT that is trying to get to safety. There's a myriad of scenarios that you could create out of it. Which have at it. That's kind of what we did with 13 days to 13 hours. We used the historical situation, we changed a variable and played it out.
Yeah, we did the best we could with that one. Even that one, the report was still heavily redacted. So we didn't even know what weapons the guys were carrying for sure. We went by what they carried in the movie,
right?
But if you actually read the Senate report, what weapons the people were carrying, that's actually still blacked out on the report. And that's the great thing about skirmish gaming. I know I'm usually the big battle guy, but the further you click down in the scale of your game, like the scale of the battle, obviously it's going to be like the larger the miniature. But if your battle is like 5 or 6 operators up against like 20 Taliban or even smaller, the smaller the battle, the less you rely on like hardcore, big picture historical information. Because usually history doesn't get recorded at that very, very small individual firefight level. So, yeah, you can like make up this is the kind of thing that's happening over there. And it's like, one more day in Afghanistan or, somewhere in Kabul, 2021, and you're fine as far as historical accuracy goes, because that historical accuracy will probably never really emerge, at least not at that level. Commando raids, Osama bin Laden's raid, Pegasus Bridge, every once in a while you get a special case where we really do know the name of every single guy in the plane, what he was carrying, where he was standing, how, the super small skirmish level battle is recorded for posterity, like down to the nuts and bolts. But those are actually kind of the exception.
Right.
Most of the time, when it comes down to the firefight level, and I think that's one reason why skirmish games have become more popular. The rule sets are usually a little simpler. The model count is definitely lower, and there's less reliance on hardcore historical data.
And going back to kind of what we were talking about with the Hex Encounter games, if you're playing a tabletop miniature game at the skirmish level, it doesn't require as many resources. You don't need as big a table. You don't need as much terrain, all that jazz, because it's usually played in a smaller area.
Yeah, it's definitely much more accessible.
Yeah. All right. So there you go, guys. Food for thought on those issues. So let's change gears since the three of us are here. Yep. Butterbar to 4-star.
Oh, yay.
All right. How are we doing this? We've had some time to think about it.
We thought that awesome name up. I mean, Butterbar
right?
4-star, that was great.
That guy, I tell you, we should put him on the payroll.
Yeah. You get paid, right? No.
I will send you M&Ms.
We're going to double what you made last year.
Yeah. Take what you made last year and add 20%.
There you go. Right out of Christmas. Right out of Christmas vacation.
There you go.
20%.
All right. So we've had time to think about it. I've been kicking this around. There's been so many different things thrown at us is about, how do we include everybody in the world? How do we do this? The question comes down is, what is the final objective of doing this? Right? What is it that what is that final objective? What are we trying to accomplish?
See how long it takes Marty to get court-martialed. You made it to first lieutenant. Good job, buddy.
Here's your Article 15. Congratulations. So, the final goal is to be general, right? 4-star general. What is it? General in the Marine Corps as well?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Because a single star general is a brigadier, 2 is major, 3 is lieutenant, and then general is 4. We're not going to do the whole silly 5-star general of the Army or Marine Corps BS. So
there hasn't been a 5-star officer in our military since 1956 when Omar Bradley retired.
Right.
Yep.
So
they talked about making Schwarzkopf a 5-star general for about 6 seconds in 1991.
Yeah. And
the first person to shoot that idea down was Schwarzkopf himself.
Yeah.
So probably a good call.
God willing, we'll never see another 5-star general, because in order for America to have a 5-star officer means we are in some heavy global World War III shit.
Right.
So actually, let's hope we never see another 5-star general.
Okay. So we want to have a career. It's obviously a career mode campaign type thing, and you have to get to general. So, what we've been kicking around so far, we're kicking the can around the play yard, is that in one conflict, you're going to start out as a Butterbar, 2nd lieutenant.
Yep. So it's basically a platoon leader for everyone in the audience.
Yep.
So then the question is, what is the criteria for you to get promoted? How many battles do you fight during said campaign to move on to the next campaign. So we kind of said, hey, maybe we should start in Vietnam. Because there was, a lot of the whole, in World War II, all wars, honestly, but, very poignant if you look at a modern side of warfare. In Vietnam, a lot of people went, from stateside as Butterbars to go, command a platoon over in Nam, as ground pounders or whatever the case may be. We've had some people say, Vietnam may not be the best one because it did include all nations. So
yeah, we can just say 1960s.
Yeah,
because once you just say 1960s,
all of Africa opens up.
Yeah, boom, and you've got everybody.
Right. So
the rest of Southeast Asia.
So then the other side of that is the logistics side of it. If we're saying, okay, any conflict in 1960s, how do we gauge success or failure? Because we want people. All right, do we say, okay, if you're fighting for the UK, these are your battles and your campaign. If you're French, this is yours. If you're American, this is yours. How do we gauge success and failure?
Okay, so what we need is a place for anyone who wants to participate in this to have like a central place where they can either post battle reports, post table photos, and talk about the games that they did. Because I don't think we want to run these games for the people.
No, do not want to do that. It's too much work.
Yeah, not only that, but it also takes away all the creativity and fun for the people that are participating. So any system, we'll explain. Okay, so the first thing, we need a central place.
Yeah.
The
Discord.
Website isn't up. There you go. We can set up a new space in our Discord server.
Yep.
And what our new space in our Discord server is going to be is like, okay, we're going to set up. Well, let's go ahead and not finalize, but definitely sketch out the levels now. Platoon level. These are games like Bolt Action.
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to think of other platoon. What do you guys think?
Bolt
Other
Action,
platoon level games.
You could do Bolt Action. You could do like Chain of Command. You could do Ultra Combat Normandy.
That's not squad level. That's more platoon.
You can do squad level, platoon level. You can do them all.
Okay.
It scales. Bolt Action. And Team, not Team Yankee. What's the World War II version? Flames of War. Flames of War is more company and battalion, right?
Yeah. That's like the next click up.
All right.
So platoon level, again, I know you guys know, but for people who are listening later, platoon level is you're a second lieutenant. You've got anywhere between 30 and, say, 45 men, probably a senior staff NCO somewhere in your platoon, and 3 sergeants leading 3 squads.
Yeah.
Of anywhere between 8 and, if you're a crazy Marine, 13 men. So you wind up with about 30 men to, again, depends on, that's the size of the game we're talking about. And that's going to be platoon level. Games like Flames of War, I guess if you did a very, very small Flames of War scenario, you could kind of get away with it. Battle Group, maybe. But technically, there's some platoon level games in Battle Group, but again, those are mostly company level games.
Right.
So we'd want to have a platoon level game that's your first lieutenant or second lieutenant, and then you may get promoted to first lieutenant, depending on the army you're in, because armies have different rank structures. Those are just, we're using the American ranks for now. And then the next level would be company level. So we're not going to have one for every rank because second lieutenant, Butterbar lieutenant is 01, and 4-star general is 010. We're not going to have 10 levels.
You're right.
But we're going to do it by military echelons, I think. Again, stop me if you guys
want. No, I think you're on the right track. Yeah, you're on the right track.
So platoon level, that's going to be second lieutenant. Then you get promoted to second lieutenant. What did I just say? You start off at second lieutenant, Butterbar. You get promoted to first lieutenant, Silver Bar. You're still kind of in the platoon level. First lieutenants are usually XOs of companies, but we'll kind of let that slide. In some militaries, first lieutenants are company commanders, especially the Soviets. They call them senior lieutenants and they command companies. But anyway, that almost doesn't matter. After that, you get promoted to captain. And captain is when you start commanding companies. Company is about 100 to 150 men, 3 platoons. So take the previous level, multiply by 3. Now you've got 3 platoons plus either a weapons company or a command element or a mortar detachment, who knows what. Again, depends on your branch. Depends on your nation, depends on your era, depends on your conflict. And now you're talking about, also depends on whether or not you want to command tanks.
Right. You could do Team Yankee and command and company level. So
yeah. So okay, going back to tanks, platoon level is 4 tanks.
Yeah.
You're done. Your whole army is 4 tanks, and that's it. You are a platoon leader in an armored formation. 4 tracks. Done. Company level. Depending whether or not you're playing an all-armor team or an all-armor company or one of those mixed teams like Team Yankee, you got anywhere between 14 and 16 tracks, depending on the exact makeup of your unit.
Yeah.
It's usually 3 platoons of 4, an XO, and a CO. That is 14 tanks total. But again, sometimes you mix up the teams, you swap a platoon with a sister company and a mechanized battalion, and you wind up with 2 platoons of tanks and a platoon of mechanized infantry, an ITV element, something like that. So you could have a little bit more as far as numbers of vehicles go. That's company level. And then, yeah, you can play company level for a while, and eventually you click up to battalion. Battalion is 3 companies.
Yeah. And
that's going to be tough. That's where battalion's a tough one. Most game systems out there, it kind of tend to jump from company straight to brigade, and they often skip over battalion. Panzerleader is mostly a brigade game. Games like Panzerleader are mostly brigade games. I guess you can use Northag.
Yeah.
He's often, it's kind of like a battalion game. Or you can do battalions in things like Battle Group, technically. You can definitely do battalions in Flames of War. It's just a big game now. Because a battalion is like 500 to 600 men. Or upwards of like 40 tanks. So you can technically do battalions. The battalion levels often given in Flames of War scenarios aren't quite correct. And I think the reason they do that is because, they don't want to scare people. Mm-hmm. But a battalion is really 500 or 600 men or 40 tanks plus or a mixture therein, something like that. Like 300 men and 20 tanks or some weird combination, depends on your battalion. That's usually
you're looking at three line companies of whatever flavor and a headquarters element.
Yeah. So again, one of those companies might be a team, like we see in Team Yankee, or some kind of mixed arms. These units are all very homogenous, at least in the American military, stateside, because that's how you train, that's how you maintain, that's how you do admin. It's much cheaper that way, much easier. However, that does not work in combat. So usually when you deploy is when you start seeing these. Okay, these two brigades, they're each going to swap one of their like a mechanized, a modern era, a striker brigade combat team and an armored brigade combat team. They're each going to switch one battalion, and then within those 2 battalions, they're each going to switch one company with each other, and then within those companies, they're each going to switch one platoon with each other. So you wind up with these either tank heavy or mech heavy teams. That's a little more relevant and a little more fun actually, as far as wargaming goes, because that's how the armies are actually meant to fight.
Yep.
Right.
That's not usually how they're built stateside. So when you go to Wikipedia or whatever and you look up these order battles, you're not going to see them. But it also gives you a lot more freedom as far as building your lists go. And that's where you're going to see these different kinds of armies on your table. But
and the U.S. also embraces the concept of task organization. If you need a specialized unit or component added to your team, they'll do it.
Yeah,
they'll pull some weird stuff in. You may be an infantry battalion, and then you've got this one weird platoon or company that is off to the side that supports their particular mission.
Yep. And this is sometimes people compare it to like the Germans' Kampfgruppe in World War II. I would say that what the Americans do nowadays with their task forces is what the Germans wish they could do with their Kampfgruppe. So the Americans have all these resources and all these units, and they say, okay, we have a specific mission. We're going to go ahead and tailor build this, what used to be a battalion. It still is battalion size, but now it's from Lego blocked together from like 10 different units to be specifically tailored for this one mission. Here we go. The German Kampfgruppe in World War II battle groups in World War II were basically, oh shit, what's left? Scrape it all together, give it to this major. Okay, go kick some ass. And God bless. And we'll probably never see you again. But
so I can deal.
Yeah, that was a German comic group, especially later on in the war. But it's kind of the same thing. It's this hodgepodge kind of collected from different units and, sent together for I don't want to say temporary unit, but kind of a temporary unit profile sent to accomplish a very particular mission. So that would be the company. That would be battalion level. Then you go up to brigade level. And then from there, we could probably go to division and kind of stay there. And then, once you get done with division level, you've now made it. You get promoted to technically corps level, but there aren't that many corps level games, corps level wars in modern warfare. After you get promoted to division, you say, okay, you head back to Washington, you pick up your corps, and that's 3 stars. And then, you eventually become 4-star general. I don't know when, I don't know what the exit ramp is. I kind of almost suggest we stop at division.
Okay.
Which is technically 2 stars.
I was going to say your 2-star general is the last one that actually commands troops, if you will, because beyond that, really what they're commanding is other generals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if this was World War II, we could go all the way to 4-star because there are corps level games, there are corps level battles, 3 stars, and 4-star, you are like a theater commander like Schwarzkopf commanded everything in the Gulf. What happens if we have 2 or 3 people make it to 4-star general? You command the Gulf War. What does the other guy command? You command, I don't know, Gulf War in an alternate universe? I mean,
I was going to say he commands his Gulf War.
Yeah.
Who's more successful, right? Then you look at losses. And so this leads to an interesting question. Should we pigeonhole it, like we were saying, we start in the 1960s? Because I'm thinking, as Jim's talking about, when we get to like battalion level games and stuff, what war has the most resources to play all these levels? Truthfully, World War II.
Well,
right.
Well, a command. Yeah, a command. See, I almost say no. I see where you're going.
Yeah.
But a career is 30 years.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
That's kind of why we're picking the 1960s.
Yeah. I was going to say the problem is there's no career progression if we do that because it doesn't last long enough.
Right. Yeah. So
I've done career games like that in World War II. Großdeutschland. We took 1 year of Großdeutschland Panzer Grenadier Division and we played it.
Yeah.
I started off as a major. I ended up as a lieutenant colonel. Because how far are you going to go in a year?
Right.
So I've kind of done on much smaller scopes the kind of project we're talking about.
Yeah.
Before, I've just never tried to do the entire scope of an officer's career.
I agree with you. I was just looking at it from the resource side of it. Here's what I propose. We said the 1960s. What if we say it's Vietnam is the theater of operations? Whether your representative country was there or not, you take the units, weapons that you would have had if you had fought in Vietnam, and everybody fights Vietnam. And then we go to...
There might be some rules constraints on that or some liberties that have to be taken.
All you have to do is take rules published for Anzacs and pretty much publish them out to the British. They largely use a lot of the same stuff.
And then the NVA would be NVA would be any Soviet bloc, essentially. The NVA, not Viet Cong, but so that would be your Soviet bloc, and then a lot of your Western allies have already, like the French. I think there are rules for the French already in some games, for Vietnam, because obviously they were there first. And, so, I mean, it's possible. And then we go from there. So, all right. So the first career path, decade 1, Vietnam, 60s, right?
Okay.
60s to early 70s. What's decade 2? 80s?
For potential conflicts?
Yeah. 70s, 80s?
It would have to be 70s because if you're a second lieutenant or a first lieutenant in the 60s, you have to be a captain by the 70s.
Yeah.
Or you're getting rotated out.
Yeah. So then, what are the big conflicts of the 70s that people could game? Arab-Israeli war?
Well, not if you're in the U.S. Army.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could. There's something we could find.
Yeah.
there's going to be some. I mean, it was a disastrous mission, but maybe you can make it turn out better. We could always do Operation Eagle Claw, Desert One.
Yeah, there's that.
Hey, well, I mean, it was a shit show in real life, but maybe you can improve it. Or it should say the player. Maybe the player can improve the result.
Well, let me bounce this off of you though. We just told
what am I talking about? Vietnam went all the way through at least the first half of the 70s.
Well, to 75.
Yeah, we weren't out completely till 75,
yeah.
but we just told all of our friends and allies that are not U.S. or did not participate directly in the Vietnam War. Hey, this is where you're going to start.
Right.
Go there.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to do that with the U.S. I think in the 70s. We're going to have to go to somebody else's war and insert ourselves in.
Again, we should just have it be like decade based. Like, okay, company, or I should say platoon level. Platoon level, you start off. Oh man, it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be like 65 to 70.
It's starting to turn into an RPG a little bit too.
Well, that was the whole point.
You're gonna have to.
It's literally that was the whole point of the mission. Is you basically creating a character.
Yeah.
You're Second Lieutenant Johnson or whatever. You're starting off as a guy, and you're trying to level him up. Hell yeah, it's an RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least in some aspects of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Era 1, it can't be strictly. I don't think it can be strictly camp. Because we're going to run out of. Okay, it can't be strictly decade based. We're going to run out of decades.
Right.
Because we have like 5 levels: platoon, company, battalion, brigade, division. 5 levels. If we did a decade for each level, we have some 80-year-old generals hobbling around. That's not going to work.
No.
So it's going to be like,
have you seen the Joint Chiefs of Staff? I'm just saying.
We're going to start off with, say, Era 1, 65 to 73.
And you can make captain by the end of 75.
Yeah, we'll say. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's going to be Era 2.
Yeah.
So we'll say like 65 to 72. That's Era 1. Never mind. I mean, Vietnam is going to be where most Americans are going to want to play, but we've got other people. I know one guy who's going to want to join this. I want to be a new lieutenant in the IDF. I want to be a tank platoon commander in the IDF.
There you go.
Damon. Damon's
that'll cover him.
Yeah.
And he'll command a platoon of either Centurions or Pattons, M48 Magach 3s in the 6-Day War. Okay, that's going to be his platoon game. All right. I'll play a Marine, the platoon commander or platoon leader in, Vietnam or something. And who knows what other people are going to do.
Right.
That's Era 1. Era 2 is going to be 73 to 82 or something like that.
Do it at 83 because you can put Grenada in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
But, yeah, the reason I cut it off at 72 is I'm leaving 73 in there. So the Americans can keep playing in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Because we get out of there officially in 73. And then there's stuff like Eagle Claw, Dominican Republic, little stuff like that, Grenada later on.
Yeah.
Beirut, stuff like that. Of course, this leaves 73 in level 2 for the Arab Israeli War players. And as far as French or British players, like Martin keeps saying, holy hell, you've got Africa.
Right.
All of Africa. Yeah. Just put a map of Africa up there. Throw a dart.
There's where you're going.
Yeah, because I think that's kind of how they did it back then.
Angola, Rwanda, Mozambique, Kenya.
Rhodesia.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe.
It literally just never stops, sadly. So, yeah, that way we've got Era 2 covered. You make captain by the early 80s. And then we have 80s and 90s for 80s and early 90s for battalion, and then you've got late 90s for brigade, and then modern stuff. So brigade would probably last through 2003. So you can do the beginning of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, and also the beginning parts of Afghanistan. And then that way, if we want to go all the way to division, you've got division for War of Terror going forward, 2004 to pretty much today. Fallujah, Sadr City, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the bigger, yeah. So I suggest that when we set these eras, we sort of straddle like conflicts.
Yeah.
so that if players do well and they're still in Vietnam, they may captain, they can keep going in the same conflict. This also allows us to get 5 eras in basically 3, maybe 3.5 decades for a more realistic career path.
All right.
35 years is a pretty good career for an Army general or for for a flag grade officer.
Right. Sounds like a plan. All right, let's hammer home those timelines again. So we're talking 65 to 73 for level 1 lieutenant.
65 to 72.
72. Okay, 65 to 72.
The only reason I want to leave 73 in level 2 so people who want to keep gaming Vietnam can still keep going.
Gotcha. All right, then 73 to 82, 83.
I think we said 83, so we can include Grenada.
Yep. All right, so 73 to 83.
Although, do we want to?
Do we want to?
Because we've already got the Americans covered in 73.
Yeah.
We're leaving Vietnam. We're leaving the vestiges of Vietnam, and then of course all the unofficial stuff that never happened. Air quotes. We're leaving all that stuff in Era 1.
Okay.
So hold on. Now I actually have to write something down. No, this is probably not the kind of thing we should do on a hot mic, but you're seeing it here live, folks. You're seeing how the sausage is made. All right,
here we go.
65 to 72 is platoon. 73 to, let me just spitball this, to 80 is company. 81 to, this way we have Grenada in battalion. We have Grenada in number 3.
Because you'll have Grenada, you have Panama.
I forgot about Panama.
Yeah.
So 81 to 90 is battalion. 91 to, when was Kosovo? The Kosovo was like 99, right?
No, it was
earlier
before
than
that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where's Chris at? That jackass was there.
Kosovo was 99. The Balkans started off at 90, and when God knows when 90 to 92 was the worst of it. Let's try not to make this too American specific. I'm trying to think what else was going on in the late 90s. Of course, 2001 everything breaks wide open, but.
Well, you had the Philippines, you have Burma, you have.
I forgot about Somalia, 93.
Yep, Somalia.
Okay, so 90 to say 2000.
Yep.
Say is brigade, because we're going to go ahead and skip over regiment. And then 2001 forward is division. Yep. That way we have Iraqi freedom in there. If you want to command a division in Iraqi freedom, there were only like 4 divisions or so, full divisions. I know there were pieces from half, God knows how many divisions. But as far as the size of Iraqi freedom, it wasn't that big. At least compared to Desert Storm.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so how's that? Did you guys get those dates? If not, I have them written down.
You got them written down?
Okay, so 65 to 72 is platoon, level 1. 73 to 80 is company, level 2. 81 to 90 is battalion, level 3. 91 to 2000 is brigade. And then 2001 to question mark is division. And that leaves room in case anyone wants to get really ambitious and wants to go above division.
All right, so we're talking corps. Armies.
Corps/army, yeah.
So if you want to command the whole kit and caboodle in OIF or, Enduring Freedom.
That would literally be it. So 2001 to 2002, that's a very short period, but that could be division.
Yep.
If you wanted to command like some stuff in Afghanistan on the divisional level, although there wasn't a whole lot of divisional level combat in there. But we could figure something out. And then 2003 is optional. 2003, you can either command a division if you're still there, or you can command a corps/army, which is basically you command all of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
So you're doing CENTCOM or, whatever.
I was going to say, that makes you a theater commander.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ooh, theater commander. Can you hear Jim's juices flowing now? Theater commander.
That's literally the 4-star general. Yeah, you're basically Schwarzkopf the sequel.
Yep. Hey, it sounds like
I should know who actually did command that, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I should know that. Who actually was in charge of Iraqi Freedom?
That depends on when you're talking about, because it changed hands.
Oh, yeah.
several times.
Talk about a career, yeah.
All right.
What, 14?
So we've got the basic ingredients to build the foundation for this campaign. Excellent.
As far as like judging when somebody moves on, I mean, we don't want to like force people to play games that they don't want to play. But
right.
I don't know, like 3 games per rank or something. We're assuming you're going to win at least one of them.
So yeah, how do they get promoted?
Yeah, that would be good.
So, if we're saying, all right, in each era you have to play 3 combat conflicts, some battle,
Right.
So what is the criteria to get promoted to the next rank? 2 out of 3? Because I'm sorry, a 1 out of 3 is not really promotable worthy. My case, unless you do something really, really great, Well, then we go out the Jim Ariskany battle rating system. Is it a moral victory, a tactical victory? Those kind of things.
Oh, that's certainly not my that's not my skill. That's old Avalon Hill. Marginal, tactical, and decisive.
Yeah. So
either you pimp slapped him, you roundhoused him, or you curb stomped his ass. Those are the 3 basic levels.
So I say, as long as you can count it as a win.
He's going home crying. He's going home in an ambulance, or he's not going home at all. Those are the 3 levels of victory.
So as far as I don't know, if we say, all right, each era you got to win, you got to play 3 battles. You need to win 2 out of 3 to get promoted. Let's make
you
it
have
simple.
to play at least. Well, you have to have at least 3 battles, and you have to have at least 2 victories.
Yes.
That way, if you lose if you only get 1 out of 3, you have to play a 4th battle.
Right.
I was going to say, but they can keep playing until they get 2 victories. Is that it? So, I mean, the line is 2 victories. What if I win the first 2? Do I still have to play a 3rd?
No.
Well, no, because you have to have at least 3 games.
Yeah,
you have to have at least 3 games and 2 victories.
Yep.
Okay.
So yes, you have to play 3 games and minimum of 2 wins.
How about this?
Oh, here it comes.
And depending on how this is all go back to that stupid Gross Deutschland thing. If you win really well, or you win 2 games in a row, or one of your battles is a decisive victory, or you just put up a kick-ass battle report. Because what we're really let's not bullshit around. What we're really trying to do is to drive community involvement.
Right.
And that's going to happen by people posting kick-ass battle reports in this new Discord thing we're going to set up.
Right.
So if you put up a really kick-ass Discord, really kick-ass battle report with pictures, God knows what, lots of pictures, cool graphics, some detailed write-ups or whatever, it's not going to affect your score, but basically if you win 2 games in a row, or if you win the game with a decisive victory, or if you put up a really good battle report, there are, wait for it, on top of ranks, there are medals.
Nice.
You build up a chest. build up that salad bar, that hardware store on your chest.
Nice.
All right, so now let's say you're on a roll and you're winning your games and you got medals. Could that potentially fast track you to get promoted faster, where you still have to win your 2 battles, but if you win your first 2, you don't have to play the 3rd one at a higher level?
That could definitely work. Yeah. Almost like you're carrying over successes from the previous level.
Right.
You really did well at platoon level, and now you get the captain level. You're not starting over completely from scratch.
And
you got some momentum built up.
It's kind of like you're the apple of the command's eye, and they've recognized your tactical prowess and are advancing you faster, so that way you can do more great things at higher levels.
Because this never happens. It didn't happen with Schwarzkopf in Vietnam. It didn't happen with McMasters and Desert Storm.
Just saying.
Yeah, just saying. Next thing you know, the next time I heard of McMasters, he was on Trump's staff. I was like, why do I recognize that guy? Oh my God, am I old? You realize who he was and when you were. Oh Jesus Christ, I'm old. Anyway,
turns out he was running amok in the background.
He's doing something.
So basically, Mario, what you're saying is when we go to the next era, instead of having to play 3 games, they only have to play 2 because they've been medaled or promoted.
I see what he's saying. Well, we'll have to figure something out.
I mean, we're going to have to flesh it out. But yes, that kind of concept where let's say
we reward good play.
Yeah, I
play or good battle.
Yes. Yeah.
So I win my my first 3 games as a platoon leader, and I provide some great battle reports, and I've got an awesome looking table, and it's kick ass. I get moved on to captain. I'm doing the same thing. I won my first 2 battles. You know what? You don't have to play that 3rd battle. You've been recognized. We give you the Legion of Merit or meritorious super guy award, and you are promoted to lieutenant battalion commander.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do it pretty simple. We could say, okay, look, if you somehow overachieve in a given level, you get to carry 1 game and 1 victory, 1 victorious game into the next level. And we kind of write the rule like that. That way,
there you go.
We kind of get into what Marty's talking about, where it's like, okay, I'm in the captain now. I won either all 3 of my platoon games, but I'm not really required to. I was only required to win 2 of them, but I won all 3. Or I did a good battle. Basically, I won a Bronze Star somewhere.
Sure.
I go into captain. I'm a newly promoted captain with a Bronze Star. Sweet. So I'm on the fast track. Now I am, or whatever the British or French version of that is, Soviet. I'm going to play a Soviet. I got bad news for y'all. I'm playing a Russian, man.
Oh, no, you can't.
Yeah. Because, come on, man. Someone's got to do it. Anyway. Either a Russian or a Marine. I don't know which. If I play a Marine, I'll be too cheesy.
Play a Russian Marine.
Naval infantry are badass, man. I might. Where was I? Yeah, you get to go in there with 1 battle that's considered a victorious battle kind of under your belt. That way, if you win 2 battles as captain, or even if you just play 2 battles as captain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm a platoon leader. I win 3 battles. Somehow I come out of there with a Bronze Star. Great. I now start as captain. I've got 1 victorious game in my pocket, score-wise. I play a game as captain. I lose. I play a game as captain and I win. I get promoted. Because now I technically have 3 games and 2 victories.
Yep.
As a captain.
Yep.
I did take that loss though, and if I choose not to play that 3rd game as a captain, if I go straight to major, okay, now I go into, because I did not overperform as captain, I don't have that momentum anymore. I'm now at battalion level with basically, a clean slate.
Yep.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, that sounds good.
As far as the decorations go, it'll be nice and staircased. I'll have like 4 levels. I'll do the research. I'll make sure everyone's, different nations are represented or whatever, different levels. And it'll just be a basic. The first time you do it, okay, you get the Bronze Star. The second time you do it, you get, I don't know, what's next? Legion of Merit or the Silver Star?
Silver Star.
Then,
or cluster, or however we wanted to do it.
Yeah, it depends.
I was going to say, you could be awarded the same award again, depending on, powers that be.
If you're in the Marines, you have the Navy Cross gets in there somewhere. I think Navy Cross is technically above Silver Star.
Yeah, it is.
There's actually a president.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I want to save Victoria Crosses and CMHs for very last, obviously.
Yeah.
You're going to have to really kick ass on at least 4 of the levels.
Yeah, you're basically going to be the last man standing and turn the tide of the battle, or something spectacular like that to qualify for the VC or the CMH.
And have a kick-ass battle report.
Yes, it has to have a good battle report to go with it.
It has to have a good battle report, and I want to see friggin' command units on the table, and I want to know when command units get hit because I'm giving out Purple Hearts, too.
Ooh, look at Jim.
There you go. Your guy made it out of there. We're not going to kill anyone's character, but, yeah, you got lit up there in the Mekong Delta. I got bad news for you.
Yeah. All right, so you know what we got to do? We're going to have to write all this crap down. And start putting together a program, operational whatever. So
yeah, that'll all be published in Discord.
Yeah. So we'll put a Google Doc together that people can download, and we'll link it in the Discord channel. Or can you attach files in Discord, Jim?
Nope. In fact, that's the preferred way they want you to do it.
Okay.
I was gonna say, they would prefer you just dump the file there.
All right. So then we'll just create a really cool, snazzy OPSEC manual and. We'll go from there, and we'll get people signed up once we hammer out the manual itself, the app order, and then we can go from there. Sounds like a plan. Yeah, this is awesome. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited. I can't believe you're going to play Russians, you commie. Yeah.
You're gonna leave half the world off the table.
Well, somebody's gonna want to play the Russians.
That gives you a lot to work with, though.
Yeah. That is true.
Talk about someone who's never gonna have to worry about where I'm going.
That is true.
I'm not gonna have any problem with that.
Yeah.
I got half the world to myself. There you go. Y'all fight over everything else. We'll have 15 people in Vietnam, and we'll just have Oriskany in friggin' Angola somewhere or whatever the hell.
Yeah. Okay. There you guys go. So the seeds have been planted. So the three of us, we're going to have a meeting offline and hammer out the logistics and create the manual and get that published. So that sounds awesome. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and close out the show. Any final thoughts from anybody? Marty?
All right. So we kind of touched on this earlier, and with the situation in Afghanistan and all this stuff that's going on there, what I would say is if you've got a buddy that served in Afghanistan, give that dude a call.
Yeah.
Make sure he's doing okay.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of them that aren't.
Yeah.
And I know that with the experience I've had this week and talking to some of my friends. And some of the guys that you think are solid dudes, and they are struggling.
Yeah.
So, give them a call. Make sure they're doing all right. Go have a beer. Go to Top Golf, whatever. Do a little something to make sure that they know that there's folks here that are thinking about them.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I've already reached out to my son, so just make sure he's doing okay. So, yeah. Good advice, Marty. Good advice. Jim, final thoughts?
No, I couldn't have said it better myself. And I've already talked way too much this episode, so nothing really new for me.
It's in your wheelhouse, though.
Yeah, I mean, so just close out the stream, guys. Make sure you're taking care of your buddies and your friends, even the ones that seem like the rock solid supermen. They still have conflicts themselves. And we want you guys to enjoy gaming. Feel free to game the way you want to. Just be respectful. That's all we ask. And have the freedom to game whatever era battle you want to. I still do the ACW, even though, well, I won't go there. But anyways, just do it respectfully. That's all that's required. So for the Sit Rep podcast team to spill for this week's or this every other week's episode, make sure that you check out Jim's live stream tomorrow as they finish up some more conflict in the. Do you consider it the Far East these days, Jim? I mean, what is the proper term? Is it?
I always call it Western Pacific.
There you go, Western Pacific.
That's just me.
And check out that action tomorrow. Make sure you tell your friends to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube, or follow us on Facebook. We've gained some more traction this month so far in subscribers on YouTube. I'd really like to see us hit 700 by end of year. I mean, honestly, I'd like to see us higher than that, but I'll take 700. The closer
1 million.
1 million. Heck,
that might be next year's goal.
Honestly, as soon as we can hit the 1,000, we're going to be, doing pretty well, because then, we can start getting ad revenue from.
Pretty sure we're eligible to be monetized at 1,000.
Yeah, so I mean, we've hit all other marks for monetization. It's just the 1,000 base. So if you guys out there can help us, we'd appreciate it. Look forward to more information about Butterbar to 4-star, as well as our Dead Presidents Gaming Weekend. So,
yes.
That we talked about on the live stream on Saturday night. So for everybody here at the Sit Rep Podcast, have a great week of gaming. We will see you soon, and make sure you check out Jim's game tomorrow. And we will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Sit Rep Podcast. We hope you have enjoyed the show. Make sure you like and subscribe to all of our channels on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Discord. Remember to join us every other weekend for a new episode of the podcast, and don't forget our other programming on Wednesdays and Sundays. Thanks for listening.